And we are live. We are all set. Okay, perfect.
No.
Great. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for this Westy Live. I'm Jamie Chavez. I'm the president and CEO of the Westminster Chamber of Commerce. And every Wednesday, we bring to you a live broadcast featuring one of our newest chamber members to give them a chance to talk to you about their business and what they bring to the community. So if you are new to the broadcast, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. I encourage you to like and follow our Facebook page. That way you'll receive notifications for when we go live in the future. If you're on YouTube, you can hit subscribe and explore previous broadcasts there as well. We also offer broadcasts on Mondays that are dedicated to city updates from our city councilors, Mayor Pro Tem, our mayor, and other city officials. And these broadcasts offer a chance to hear all about what's going on down at City Hall. So I hope you tune in for those as well. And then one Friday of the month, we reserve for Jefferson County Commissioner Rachel Zenzinger and Adams County Commissioner Steve Ordericio. So we hope that you can tune into those for broader county matters. And as you watch the broadcast today, please feel free to engage with us, ask any questions in the comment section, or simply say hello, and we'll get to those during the interview. And now a very warm welcome to Baltazar Villanueva, owner of Relentless Spirit and Nutrition. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So new member to the chamber, we're excited to hear what you offer and bring. And so I'm just going to hand it over to you and let you tell everyone about your business.
Awesome. Well, like you said, my name is Baltazar Villanueva. I'm a nutrition coach and personal trainer. I've been active in it now for 2 years. I have over 30 years of experience in martial arts, and 17 of those were in instruction. So a lot of what I do now pertains to health and fitness, just like I did then. However, this is just more specific. Trying to teach people essentially how to build and define their body, whether it be for aesthetics, performance, or longevity. I went through a bout myself in my mid to late 20s, suffering from like an eating disorder, not knowing what to do. I was overtraining and under eating, and led me to eventually having to stop teaching martial arts just because the environment became toxic to me. So in that time, I got married, had a couple kids, and always just had a passion for helping people. Like I didn't know what I was doing wrong. So it took me the better part of 10 years essentially to kind of hone in on like what to do with nutrition and how that actually pertains to fitness. Like you can't out-train a poor diet in that aspect. And it was just something that I never took into consideration with all the years that I was in martial arts, because I was burning so many calories while training, that I didn't figure that eating Chipotle like 2 times a day probably wasn't the healthiest of choices for me to make. So it took me a while, but once I did, I fell in love with it. For myself, it's a passion to always have worked out. So the opportunity to teach others how to move and how to do it appropriately, eliciting the biggest response in the body with the least amount of effort. And nutrition doesn't have to be rocket science in that way. So teaching people how to hit small goals at a time and how those goals can start to stack upon each other and ultimately help you achieve your goals. Again, whether it be in aesthetics, performance, or longevity.
Awesome. So how do you think that your martial arts background influenced your approach to training now?
It's really different in the aspects of like how I approach training now versus then. When I was in martial arts, I was working 6, sometimes even 7 days a week, working out.
I think we might have lost you, Baltazar. See if we can get it back. We'll give him a minute to try and log back in here, everybody. I'll text him. There we go. Are you back? Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me okay? I can hear you. Sorry about that. I guess my phone overheated.
Oh, geez.
Okay. Sorry about that. So where I left off. So training for me was slightly different now versus then. Just in the aspect of, like I said, I was training multiple times a day, and endurance wise, my endurance was at peak performance in that aspect. Where now I try to teach people that recovery is far more important than just the workouts that you're actually performing. It's what's going to dictate whether or not your body's moving in the appropriate direction. And when I was in training, like I didn't realize that there were two different signals in which you can send to the body. And I was trying to send both signals simultaneously. And one signal is trying to elicit a muscle growth signal, and the other one was an endurance signal. And if you want to be successful in one versus the other, you always need to make sure that you're taking that one specific signal and giving it the most attention. And then if you want to work on the other one, that's your secondary, you can't put it nearly as enough energy into that one as you did the first one. And so that was the big mistake that I made in martial arts, is I was just trying to elicit both signals as strong as possible with only getting mediocre results. So now, compared to where I'm at now, I really try to focus more so on eliciting like a muscle building one, versus an endurance one. I still have good endurance, don't get me wrong. That's still something that's important to me, but yet it's not the most significant one, especially when I work with clients who are trying to learn how to mold and shape their body. Like physical training, when it comes to working out, it's the only type of exercise or sport in which allows you to mold your body in the way that you want to. Endurance training can't do that for you. But pairing strength training with nutrition allows you to build certain body parts like you want. You want bigger arms or you want bigger glutes. Like you can do that in here without necessarily having to go through the route of like surgery or something like that.
Mm-hmm. So, what does the name of your business, Relentless Spirit, how'd you pick that, and what does that signify?
Yeah, that's a great question. So growing up, my mom was a single mother for many years. My father had left and was unfortunately deported to Mexico when I was around 5. At that time, my mom knew how much I loved martial arts. And so she looked around a lot for a school for me to go to. So when we moved back into Denver from Adams County, fortunately, there was a school that was about 2 miles from my house. I was really tall, I was really light skinned, and I was predominantly in a Latino neighborhood. I went to Skinner Middle School. And so, because of how different I was from everyone else, I used to get picked on a lot. So, my mom finally was like, you know what? He loves martial arts. He's always wanted to do it. I'm going to put him in this school. And so from there, I met my first mentor, Bill Subre. And in martial arts, we practice things that are known as forms. And it's just like a pattern of self defense movements. And it's essentially to help you overall build your endurance. And so the name of his form was Relentless Spirit. So, as a homage to him, just because he means so much to me and he's still in my life and very much was that father figure I wanted and needed, I named my business after him, and then I just incorporated the fitness and nutrition aspects into it.
Yeah, that's very cool. I didn't know that. I had not heard that story before.
Yeah.
So how do you tailor your fitness and nutrition plans to accommodate individual client lifestyles and goals?
That's a great question. Just like you said right there, everyone is different. I can't take the same model for one individual and just kind of cross it over to everyone in the same way. I have to really try to hone in on what are the goals of the individual specifically. So for example, a lot of clients come to me and say, I want to lose weight. That's usually the biggest one that comes to me is like, I want to lose weight. Okay, great. Well, what do you mean exactly? Now, that could be something straightforward as like, I jump on the scale and I don't like the number that I see. Okay, no problem. So for myself, like I'm a 200-pound male and I've always roughly been about 200. But when I was in martial arts, I was a little more, not soft, but I definitely had a lot more body fat on me. And so what I try to work with when it comes to clients, especially females, is not to focus on the number on the scale, but how we can start to transform your body and lose weight at the same time, but not make that the ultimate goal. And once you get past the mindset of like, the scale isn't necessarily moving as quickly as we can, but yet my clothes are fitting me looser, I'm a lot stronger. My libido is better. My mood and my energy have improved. Those are ultimately what matters most to me. So for clients, it's just like again, like we can build certain parts of your body if you like, and we can make that a structure in the workout. Um, but teaching them how to eat more is actually better for you, and you're going to find yourself leaning out and building lean body tissue and losing body fat. That now starts to come to the point. But to get back to more of what you were asking, I've had clients throughout different age ranges and I can't necessarily treat them the same way. Like I've had a 72-year-old woman that I used to go to her house and do resistance band trainings with her, and she actually recovered from a surgery that they had to go in through her neck and fuse a couple of the vertebrae in her spine a lot faster because of the resistance bands that we trained with. Now, others though that are younger, that don't necessarily have those type of ailments, I prefer to try and get them to do free weights such as dumbbells and barbells. But I do have clients who like to work calisthenics, body weight exercises because they want to work on initial burst speed for sports. Like I have those who love to play soccer, so we work on that initial step. I have clients who are young that do wrestling. So then I have to work on specific, not necessarily wrestling techniques, but on how to improve those techniques through their physical capabilities. So ultimately is you tell me what your goal is, and I will mold the workouts to what you want to hit specifically. But keeping in mind that the mindset change is going to be the biggest thing that I work on with you or any of my clients essentially when you and I start working together.
Got it. And I think one thing that people struggle with, I certainly struggle with it, is like eating more actually to help reach your goals. So maybe you can talk a little bit about why that's important and how
Yes.
that actually makes sense.
Yeah. Everyone understands, or at least thinks that they understand the first rule of thermogenesis, which thermogenesis is just a fancy term for like energy, essentially. So, like energy in versus energy out, calories in versus calories out. If I want to lose weight, I need to eat less and I need to move more. And to some degree, that is very true. You cannot deny the science in that. However, the body is a very intelligent machine. Like you give it a certain amount of work, it will learn to adapt to said work. If I want to walk 20,000, 40,000 steps, my sister used to work at the Pepsi Center, Ball Arena now, and she would work the suites and she would get in 40,000 steps a night, no problem. However, she couldn't figure out why she wasn't able to lose weight. And when you stick to the same amount of calorie intake, your body understands that if you're only going to give me 1,500 calories and you want me to do 40,000 steps a night, I'm going to be able to do that. And I'm going to be able to do it with the same amount of food that you're providing me. So then people will lose weight at first and then they plateau. And then they don't understand why. They're like, well, I'm doing everything right. I'm eating little and I'm moving a lot. And when you are someone who has a goal of trying to lose weight without necessarily taking any type of drug or anything like that, you have to understand that you have to rev the metabolism up. Your metabolism doesn't slow down just because we get older. We like to think that as we get older because we actually stop moving as much as we did when we were children. And so with that being said, we go into that fit of like I need to eat less and I need to move more, but the body adapts, we get frustrated, and then we want to quit and just go back to what we were doing before, and then we start to put on more weight or even more than what we had the prior time. Where if you were to do strength training and tap that into eating more proteins, healthy fats, and fiber, you will notice, especially if it's coming from whole foods, you can eat so much more food and you will have a lifestyle in which you can say, wow, I didn't know this is possible. I can go on my vacation, I can go on these trips, and I don't feel like, okay, all this hard work that I did the last few months is going to go to waste because all of a sudden I'm going to eat whatever I want. And when you build more lean body,
Oh, we lost you again. We'll see if we can get him back again. Let's see.
okay, sorry about that.
There we go.
Okay, so to get back what I was talking about, hopefully no more interruptions with that phones nowadays. But like I was saying, when you build more lean body tissue, you can feed yourself more. You can have that lifestyle of rather than feeling like you're in this little box that every time you step out, it's harder and harder to get back in. You're able to eat more and not put on the weight. And you can, like I said, have a much healthier lifestyle in that way and enjoy things. But the thing that people also get wrong with that too is that you can't just eat whatever you want and you can't necessarily eat like processed foods in the same way. So like restaurant food, fast food is essentially the same thing. It doesn't matter. But outside of restaurant food and that, supplements is the other big pet peeve I have right now with people that I'm really trying to change the mindset on because everyone's just like, well, I need to get protein in, but I don't want to eat a whole lot of calories. And so I'm going to drink 4 or 5 protein shakes. I'm going to have a couple protein bars and I'm going to be fine. And again, you'll see some results, like you're going to lose weight, but eventually you're going to plateau and you're going to wonder why again. And then you also get into the point of like cravings, like, oh my goodness, I want a real meal. And then suddenly you have a real meal and then you don't want to necessarily stop. So you want to make sure that you're feeding yourself more meals throughout the day, and that's ultimately what's going to keep you from having those fits or those cravings where you're just kind of like, forget it, I'm just going to eat whatever I want and then I'll worry about it later. Where you've already built a higher metabolism, you can eat a little bit more and it's easier to bounce back from, say, those weekends that you might have overindulged, simply because your muscle now is able to store more of it inside of it, glycogen in the muscle, and you can use it more towards the workouts. And that's the other great thing about or putting strength training in with nutrition is that you can teach your body that at rest, I'm going to utilize body fat in order to power myself throughout the day. And when I do these really hard workouts, I'm going to use the carbohydrates, which again, everyone is afraid of eating. If I eat carbs, I'm going to get fat. That is not true. But that when you build the muscle, you can actually store more in the muscle. It's what gives you that nice round look that everyone's talking about, right? Like buzzwords that people always want to hear. I want to be lean, or I want to be toned, or I want to have definition in my muscle. All of that comes from eating appropriately. And once you've built up a high enough metabolism, we can now start to cut food out of your diet so that way you can start to get leaner, lose the weight that you want, but it doesn't feel like you're in a calorie deficit. When you're at like 2000 or 1800, most men want to be like at 1800 because they think that's the sweet spot for themselves. And women like 1500 or 1200, when you're already that low and you're trying to lose more weight, there's no bottom for you. You're already at the bottom. If you're dropping to 800 or 500, or you're skipping a day of eating, you're not allowing your body to build that muscle that you even want to have the definition with. And then now you're basically in survival mode. Your body's going to hold on to whatever you give it. So your fat cells, basically, if they start this way, they start to get bigger and bigger as we allow ourselves to have more food at given times, because your body's just like, again, it's super intelligent. It's like, I don't know the next time said person is going to give me more calories, so I'm going to go ahead and store them. And then that's what we don't want to have happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the nutrition information has changed somewhat recently. I mean, there's always been good information out there, but I think for a long time it was really bad information that led to things like eating disorders and things like that. As a woman, you hear for your whole life growing up, like 1,200 calories a day, that's what you should eat. And don't lift weights because you'll get bulky.
Yeah.
And all of that's ridiculous. And now you see women at the gym lifting and definitely eating more and taking better care of their nutrition. So have you seen other changes like that recently that you think people are catching on to?
I think so too. I think women especially, I work with both men and women. I tend to veer more toward women because they listen a lot. And again, once you get past the mindset of the scale doesn't dictate whether I am succeeding or not, women have some phenomenal results. Like, I've had a woman here just recently who started working with me 3 weeks ago, was barely lifting the barbell 45 pounds. She is now squatting over 100 pounds and she's hitting a 90-degree bend. And she feels fantastic. She's more motivated than she was when we first started. And I try to send out feedback forms to my clients all the time, like, how can I do better for you? And the biggest thing that I noticed on hers was, I don't even care about the scale. Like, I'm more motivated now seeing how strong I'm getting versus when I first started. And now I want to eat better because I see how that is allowing me to perform better. And now making that connection between food will help dictate on whether or not you have a good workout is crucial. And then for myself too, there's a hierarchy that I'd like to push upon people that I think is starting to catch on more now as well. Because like I said at the beginning, I try to elicit the biggest response in an individual with the minimal amount of work when it comes to that. So only having people strength train in the gym 2 to maybe 3 times a week is enough. I don't need you in there every day pushing yourself as hard. On those days that you're not in there, I just need you to make sure that you're getting in 10 to 12,000 steps and that you're feeding yourself. Every time that you feel hungry, you want to go for whole foods and you want to be protein focused first, followed by the healthy fats and the fiber. That's what's going to help keep you satiated. And if you're still hungry, I don't want you to have a snack. I just want you to have more of that same real food that you had. And then you're going to find out, okay, now I'm full and I'm more satiated, and it's going to help me grow exactly what I want. And so that is probably the biggest thing that I've seen change amongst women right there too, is it's like, oh yeah, I can actually eat more and I'm going to actually do that. Because again, I have another female client that I just actually finished training with too. She lost another inch around her waist and her hips grew another inch and a half. And so some people might be like, well, why is that important? And it's because she was working on developing her glutes. So now her glutes are a lot bigger and she lost weight around her waist. The Her weight itself hasn't necessarily changed, but now her body is starting to mold to that as she starts to feed it more protein and more healthy fiber in that way.
Yeah. And you also emphasize things like stress and sleep and gut health. And so how do you integrate those elements into your coaching?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when it comes to stress, it doesn't matter. Again, like you have two different types of stress. You have eustress, which is the good stress, and you have distress, which is oftentimes what we're all used to working in, right? Like we have a lot going on at home, we have a lot going on at work. So I'm super stressed, and that's what's going to drive me. Drives me either to have a bad night of sleep, a good night of sleep,
Mhm.
making healthy nutrition decisions, making unhealthy nutrition decisions. It's all driven by your stress. Some of us are very much, um, driven by like how our emotional eating in that way, like comfort food. And so if we're tying stress into that, it's going to lead to weight gain at times. Most people, some people have weight loss is because they're not eating, but the majority of people tend to go the opposite direction where they tend to overeat at that point.
Got it.
And then the recovery aspect of it is actually more important than the actual fitness. Like as a personal trainer, everyone thinks that I'm all about the workouts, and I am, but it's the last thing that I actually focus on with a lot of my clients. And it's more so, did you get 8 hours of sleep? Or, and then with those 8 hours of sleep that you got, did you actually recover? Or did you wake up and then a couple hours later you're feeling exhausted again? So
Mhm.
that recovery is super important because if you can get 8 full hours of sleep at night, that's going to actually burn more calories in those 8 hours than you doing a hard 60-minute workout with me, or you thinking that you need to wake up at 4 a.m. and do that super hard run that you don't even like to do anyway, but it's burning calories and you think it's the best way to do it. And it's not. You getting that sleep and then working on the nutrition aspect while you're awake and then doing the physical stuff is going to be the way better approach for anyone to take. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and then the nutrition comes in at that point, followed finally by the fitness.
Yeah. I think that's definitely an area I struggle in is getting enough sleep. So it's one of the questions I always ask myself when I'm feeling weak for the day. Like, I must not have slept very well last night.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It drives everything. It drives your mood and your energy levels throughout the day.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're going to be able to recover from something or if you're going to kind of stay in that slump, basically.
Yeah. So can you tell people what does it look like to sign up to work with you and where do you work out and all that good stuff?
Yeah. So for myself, I do free consultations with everybody. So like if someone says, "Hey, I have said goals," awesome. I want to hear those goals. I want to hear your pain points. I want to hear what you've done in the past that was successful, what wasn't so successful, and kind of like what has driven you to where you're at now. And this is a very candid, open conversation. Me listening to you, repeating back to you what I've heard in there to make sure that you and I are on the same page and that we could be a good fit for each other. Because the chemistry between coach and client is crucial. I'm not just going to accept your work because I want the business, but I want to make sure that you and I are on the same page that we can achieve your goal together. And that's through the consultation. If it tends to be a success, awesome. I'm a traveling personal trainer. I've worked everywhere from Erie to Louisville, Thornton, Denver, Broomfield. I'm currently in Aurora right now, but I've also gone to Littleton. So I pretty much get everywhere in the city. I plan out my days depending on where my clients are, and then I try to build the schedule around you guys in that sense. And then I try to accommodate as much as I can when it comes to schedule changes um, from that point on. But a lot of it is me traveling. I work out at big box gyms a lot. So either Choose, Planet Fitness, Vasa. Um, some circumstances, depending on, like I said, the 72-year-old client, I was able to go to their home and do those type of workouts. So it really just kind of depends on the format of it and the individual themselves. But a lot of times it's me coming to you in that aspect.
Got it. Well, we've got another minute left. Is there anything that we haven't mentioned that you want people to know about your business?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an overnight thing. I can't promise you this that you'll see results within the first 30 days or so. But oftentimes, on average, I have clients lose anywhere around 5 pounds a month, or they start to see those inches come off around the waist. So as long as you have in your mind that the measurements is more so of the way that we tend to go and how your mood, energy, libido, digestion, and strength are performing, we're going to have great success with each other, and the scale will move over time when it's ready to. You just have to work on yourself.
Yep. Well, I will give you a testimonial. We've been working out for, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months now.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Maybe not quite that long. And I've definitely seen more results quicker than I have in any other program I've ever done. And so I definitely recommend that people check you out and see if it's a good fit for them. So.
Right on. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it, Jamie.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on today. Thanks for everybody who watched. And I hope that everybody enjoys the rest of their week.
Right on.